All right, welcome everyone to our Cal State Apply overview today. Thank you so much for joining us for, once again, the Cal State Apply overview hosted by San Jose State University. Go ahead and go into the next slide. I'm going to introduce myself here. My name is Amanda Fernandez. I am the Spartan Eastside Promise Program Lead here in Student Outreach and Recruitment. Fun fact about myself, I am a Spartan through and through. I've been here over 11 years. As you can see, my slides have a little bit of a goldish color to them. This means today I will be covering the freshman application. So any of you who are current high school seniors preparing to apply, I will be covering your sections. Next up, we have Cecilia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Cecilia Del Toro. I'm the International Non-Resident Admission Counselor Recruiter. I am not an SJSU alum, but I am a very proud CSU alum, having attended another CSU. All of the slides that I will be covering today have that blue color. Those offer information to our transfer applicants. So if you do see that blue slide on the screen, know that if you're a transfer applicant, that information pertains to you. And as we move forward with the application, if the application presentation, if you see any slides that are just white, that would contain information that might be relevant to both freshmen and transfer students as we move forward. And back to Amanda.
All righty, so we want to hear a little bit more about you. So on your screen, you should be seeing a poll coming up. Just go ahead, fill that out. I want to see where everyone is coming from, where you're at in this application process as we go through. As mentioned in the beginning of the presentation as well on our introduction slides, if you have any questions at this time, go ahead and drop those in the Q&A after you fill out the poll. Our team is live on the back end here, ready to answer your questions. So make sure that you put those in the Q&A section. We'll take a couple more seconds here for the poll here, as almost everyone has filled that out. So far, it looks like a lot of you are familiar with the guide. That's great. Some of you have started, some have not started. That's okay. That's why you're here today, right? To learn more about the application process, the do's and don'ts, of course, and how to get ready. Some of you have not applied for financial aid yet. That's okay. The deadline isn't until March, but it's always recommended to apply earlier rather than later, as the application is open now. So we're going to go ahead and move forward here. Thank you so much for filling out the poll. And talk about our rankings, how amazing it is to be about San Jose State. So we learned a little bit about you. We want you to learn a little bit more about our university. So we have a quick video to hear from our Spartans.
At San Jose State, we have a lot to be proud of.
We advance creativity and innovation.
We explore interdisciplinary research to study wildfire.
We reflect our diverse community and are continually working towards equity and inclusion.
We strive for justice to advance the public good.
We promote success in and out of the classroom.
We contribute $4.1 billion to California's economy.
We are transformation defined. We are Spartan.
We definitely are Spartans. So if you are interested in being a Spartan and have more questions about our admission requirements, as this presentation is solely going to focus on the application, get out your phone, open up that camera app and scan that QR code to see our steps to admission brochure. This is our domestic version. So for any domestic freshmen and transfer students, this is your steps to admission. On our next slide, we'll have our international steps to admission here. So for any international students, freshmen or transfers, you would go ahead and scan this. Our team is also putting that link in the chat for you as well. So make sure that you access those steps admission brochure, as it's a step-by-step guide on our admissions. We have one for non-residents as well. So if you're coming, if you're watching from live out of state, this is for you to be able to learn all of our admission requirements, our deadlines, see our majors, and get that information. All right, so if you also have questions on the health advisory, so how San Jose State is combating the COVID-19 pandemic, visit this website here, sjsu.edu/health advisories. As we move along, excuse me. All right, it is one application for all 23 CSUs, and that's our focus today, calstate.edu/apply. That is the website where you will apply for not just San Jose State, but any of the other CSUs. Again, it is one application for all 23, so it is so important that you review before you hit submit. As we go on to the next slide, you could be able to see what this overview will look like, starting with our freshmen once again. So as we move right to the next slide, and you'll see every population, so our freshmen, our transfers, international students, there is a guide for you. Our freshman guide looks like this, and it is available at calstate.edu/apply/freshman. Things you need to know before you start, it is $70 per CSU that you apply to, unless you are eligible for a fee waiver, which we'll talk about near the end. Deadlines are so important because they vary per CSU this year, and our deadline for our freshman domestic students is November 30th. So it's coming up. November 30th is the deadline for our freshman domestic students. There's a live chat that is available to help you, but let's go ahead and hear about our transfers.
Okay, for transfer students, just like Amanda mentioned, there's also a help guide for you, which offers that step-by-step information on how to do and fill out the application. Some things to note as well is, as Amanda has just mentioned, for domestic applicants, the deadline to submit your application is November 30th. So do keep that in mind. Keep in mind the application is $70 per application per CSU. So as you're filling that out, keep those things. It's good to know. And also know that you have these resources to you. We also have our international application guide available. You can access that. We'll drop those links in the chat, so check out the chat for links. But there is also a guide for any of our international applicants, whether you're a freshman or a transfer student. That guide also provides information on how to put in coursework, especially if you have foreign coursework. And then something that is good to know for our international applicants is that your deadline is out until April 1st. So you still have some time to submit an application. But you just want to make sure that you're keeping track of those deadlines and any of the admission requirements and documents required as you move forward. There is also a dedicated Cal State Apply Help Center. So if you're filling out the application and you get stuck or you need assistance, especially if you're working on it maybe in the evening or on the weekend when our offices aren't open, know that there is this Applicant Help Center where you can find live chat. That live chat feature is right there as it looks on the screen. On the bottom right hand corner is where you'll find a live chat. They also have a phone number you can call in to speak with someone, or you could also browse through the Help Center for all of these resources as you see on the screen. You can see the links to all of the help guides, the application guides, so that if you do get stuck, use that Help Center. It is available to you throughout the application. Something else that you want to keep in mind is that when you go to apply, you're going to go to calstate.edu/apply. And here, as it has been mentioned, there is a couple of different deadlines this year for applications for different campuses. When you get to that page, just like it's showing you here on this screenshot, you'll have that section that gives you all of the fall 2022 deadlines. So you'll want to go ahead and click on that and keep track of all of the deadlines for different campuses, because some campuses might have deadlines after November 30th. For San Jose State, it's November 30th, and international students, it's April 1st. So make sure you are reading that information that is available to you on Cal State Apply. When you are ready to apply, you're going to log in. This is what that login page looks like. If you have not started that application, you're going to create your account, and we're going to go over what are the things that you will be doing as you create your account, create your extended profile, and move forward with the application. So we'll be talking about that. But once you've created your account, you'll have access to that application for you to move forward and continue with that process. So some of the things we want to cover is that there's dedicated pages for you, and Amanda will start with our freshmen.
All right, thank you, Cecilia. So again, for freshmen, calstate.edu/apply/freshman. This is where you can find the guides that we shared for the QR code, as well as in the chat if you haven't had a chance to save that yet. calstate.edu/apply/freshman, all the do's and don'ts, the EOP worksheets if you're applying to EOP, the deadlines. But what you will do is from that drop-down menu, click Fall 2022 and then click Apply. As we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see one of the examples of the resources here, which is the checklist. This is everything that you'll need in order to fill out the application. One of the most important being a copy of your unofficial transcript. So your final A through G grades for your high school courses. So this is not progress report grades, this is your final grades. So if you haven't already gotten that from your counselor, make sure you reach out and ask for that because you will need it as you have to manually type in all of your classes that you've taken. So we'll cover that in the next few slides here. The other additional information can be found in this checklist, but you want to make sure that you review it, have all those items by your side as you get started. As we move on, what do the transfers need?
Thanks, Amanda. For transfer students, we also have that dedicated page at calstate.edu/apply/transfer, where you can find those guides again, where you can find the link for you when you are ready to apply and any other resources. So do check that out. Just like our transfer students, we have a checklist for you, which outlines some items that is good for you to have next to you as you start. Such as a copy of your unofficial transcripts as you are going to input your coursework. So that's handy to have, and some additional documentation that you want to have available or nearby as you're filling out sections of the application. For our international students, we also have a dedicated website on Cal State Apply for you with resources like the help guide, as well as a checklist. You can go to that page by going to calstate.edu/apply/international. And there you will also see a dedicated checklist, which prepares you to fill out the application with a list of documents that you want to have handy. When you do fill out the application, there's information that's going to be asked of you. You just want to be prepared with that admission checklist. Now, when you do get to the application, it's pretty straightforward. This is what we're going to cover. The creation of your account. So you're just going to create your account, and you're also going to do your extended profile. You want to make sure you're filling out the extended profile correctly. We'll go over that in this presentation, but we'll also highlight some common issues that students encounter when they're filling out the application because of the information on the extended profile. The application itself is made up of 4 quadrants. The first one is your biographical information. The second one is your academic history. The third one is supporting information. And then lastly, program materials. So we'll be going over each of these quadrants to give you more information about the entire application and make sure that you're filling it out correctly and successfully. And Amanda will start with our freshmen.
All right, so diving into that account for our freshmen, it starts with your name, your full legal name. So if you have an alternate name or a preferred name, that will be a separate section of the biographical information that Cecilia just mentioned, but this is your full legal name at this time to create that account. Email, this should be your own personal email, Gmail, Yahoo, whatever it is that you use, but your email, not a parent, not a guardian, not a significant other, or a sibling, or even a school-based email, such as a school loop email. The reason for this is our main mode of communication with you at this time, and not just for San Jose State, but every CSU that you're applying to. This is the email that we'll have on file. If you put on a school-based email, sometimes those bounce back. Or if it's somebody else's email, you might miss out some information regarding your admission status, or if you've been withdrawn, the chance to appeal. So make sure it's your own personal email address. Phone number, we prefer mobile. Username, secure password. Extended profile, as Cecilia mentioned, this is incredibly important as this is the area where most students make the mistakes. This is where we have the most questions. So extended profile, it starts off with what type of degree are you applying for, which will be your first bachelor's degree. Second, your educational status. You are a graduating high school senior or equivalent if you are applying as a first-time freshman. Even if you're dual enrolled, even if you've taken 30 community college courses, if you are graduating high school this May or June, you are a graduating high school senior or equivalent. Now, if you have earned college credit, then for the next question, you would put, yes, I have earned college credit if that college credit was earned exclusively from a community college or a university. This is not in reference to AP, IB, or CLEP exam scores. That will be a separate section of the application. This is why this is important, because if you answer yes here and your credit was not earned from a community college or university, you've just added a whole other section to your application that you don't need and won't be able to submit until you come back and make that edit. So incredibly important here. As we move on to the next slide, you'll be able to see what this looks like. As again, graduating high school senior equivalent, your first bachelor's, and only put yes if your college credit was from a community college or a university. Put no if your only credit is from AP, IB, or CLEP exam scores. As we go along.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. For transfer students, so again, similar, you're going to create your account with your basic information. And as Amanda has just mentioned, I will also mention this for transfer students. You want to make sure you're using an email that you have access to. If you are using your community college email or maybe another institution's email as that account email, I can let you know that there are issues sometimes with that email that you input, and you might not get that email notification or email communication we sent to you. So make sure you're using a personal email account that you have access to, that you will continue to have access to during this application process. Preferably not your community college email address, because if you are no longer enrolled there, you won't have access to that anymore. And then the second thing you'll fill out as you're moving forward with the application is that extended profile. So you're going to indicate what is your degree goal, which should be a first bachelor's degree. The only second bachelor's degree applications we accept at San Jose is for nursing. So if you already have a bachelor's degree and are applying for the nursing program, you would select second bachelor's and then identify nursing. But all of you as a transfer student should be with the degree goal of a first bachelor's. Secondly, you're going to have a couple of different identifiers as a transfer student. Your educational status would either be just a transfer student from a community college or university, or a transfer student with an associate's degree for transfer. So if you are a transfer student with an associate's degree, you want to verify that it is the correct associate's degree we are asking you about, which is the associate's degree for transfer, not a regular AA or AS. So confirm, if you're not sure which one it is that you have, confirm with one of your college counselors to verify what degree path you're actually on. Then you'll need to identify your ADT and list where you're receiving it, what's the degree concentration. And then if you're receiving multiple, you'll be able to indicate that there on your extended profile. And then you fill out the remainder of those extended profile questions as they apply to you. So it would look something like this. As you can see, that degree goal, it's your first bachelor's unless you're doing nursing. And then you'll indicate that you're transferring from a community college with an associate's degree if it pertains to you or not. So those are the two options. So if you put graduating high school senior equivalent, you are not a graduating high school senior equivalent because you're a transfer student. So make sure you are filling this out correctly, because that is where those issues can come up as you're filling out the application and it's incorrectly identifying you. Next is that associate's degree for transfer section. So if you are completing one and you've indicated that, this is where you're going to enter your associate's degree. You can enter up to 2. It's going to ask what community college you're completing it at and what's the ADT program. And then it asks, gives you the opportunity to report another one if you are taking multiple. So in order for you to receive that ADT benefits, make sure that you want to keep in mind that the ADT program has to match your primary major. So that is something that is part of the program, the ADT program, that in order for you to get those benefits, it does have to match your primary major that you're applying to San Jose State. Once you are ready and have successfully completed your extended profile, whether you're a freshman or transfer student, you're going to move on to the application selection. So you're going to get to the add a program section. You're going to go ahead and filter by campus, which campuses you're trying to apply to. That way you don't have to scroll through a couple hundred pages trying to find San Jose State. Once you have filtered that, go ahead and close out of that. And then you're going to see a list of all of the programs for San Jose State. When you have found the major, your primary major that you're interested in, you're going to go ahead and add it. And then you will see a pop-up that says alternate program required. So for San Jose State, you are required to select an alternate program, your second choice, in order for you to submit your application. So that is a requirement for San Jose. You're going to go ahead and click yes, and you're going to see a list of all the alternate programs that are available for San Jose State. I do want to say that when you are looking at the alternate program list, not all of our majors are going to be listed on there because we are an impacted campus for all of our majors. So some of our majors are so highly competitive that they are not listed and cannot be listed as a second option. So if you go on this list and don't see the major you want as your second option, that means it is not an option. So you'll need to select something else from that list on the alternate majors list for you to be able to submit your application to San Jose State. So that's just something to keep in mind. Once you have successfully selected your primary and your alternate major, you're going to see the review section before moving on to the actual application, the 4 sections I mentioned earlier. This is what it will look like. As you can see, it's going to tell you which applications you've started, especially if you're applying to other CSU. All of them will be listed here. As you get to this section, you'll see that green bar when you have successfully completed the entire application. That green bar will fill in all the way to the end, and then I'll let you submit the application. Some things you want to double check on this page, especially if you're applying to multiple schools, is one, that your intended major is selected in correctly and your alternate major as well. So as you can see here, you can clearly identify advertising as the major and the alternate as art. And then the other thing you want to keep track of, which is a great place to keep track of the deadlines, is on here you can see it clearly states November 30th as the application deadline. If you're applying to multiple CSUs, you can refer back to this section as you're filling out your application to keep track of those deadlines, as well as the other resources we have mentioned. Then you'll continue on to the application, which has those 4 quadrants you're going to fill out. Again, it's your personal information, your academic history, that supporting information, and those program materials. Once you have successfully filled out each of the sections, it will look just like the screenshot shows here on program materials, a complete green circle, and then you'll move forward to submitting your application. We'll be going over each of these quadrants and explaining what is in it and how to fill it out as we move forward with the application. The first section that is the same for both transfers and freshman students is your personal information section. This is where we're going to ask you personal information, like your name, additional information about your residency, where you live, where you're born. So you'll fill that out. This is also where you'll find that section asking you for Social Security. So again, that checklist we mentioned earlier, it's a good way to prepare to fill out these sections that are asking for all this information that you want to have gathered before you start on the application. When you get to that section, there is a specific question about citizenship and residency. So if any of you applying are undocumented or AB 540 students, when you get to your U.S. citizenship question, you'll select none for your U.S. citizenship, and that will let you move forward. And then if you claim California residency, then you'll go ahead and answer those questions appropriately. As you are filling out the application, not just in this section, I want to highlight, just like you can see here on the screen, at the very top, the Applicant Help Center link is available to you. It's right there. You see that Applicant Help Center link. You'll see it throughout the application. So as you move through each section, you'll at some spots find that link. Click on it if you get stuck or don't know how to answer the question, and then it'll take you to the Help Center where, again, you can live chat with someone, you can call them, or you could browse through their resources for those common FAQ sections as you move forward with the application. The second thing is that financial and parental information section. So this is the section that is going to ask you for financial information, which will also be used automatically by the application to determine if you qualify for the fee waiver. So as you're filling this out, read through it carefully, make sure you are selecting the correct answers or filling out the correct information as it applies to you. And then it's going to also ask you about the adjusted gross income or untaxed income, which we want to clarify, they are not typically the same amount. So if you look here on the screenshot for each of these questions, there is that applicant help center link. So if you're reading these questions and you don't understand the question, or maybe you need further clarification, or you need information on where you can find this income information on tax documents, click on the link that's listed right there where it says click here, and that will give you more information about what is this question asking, where can you find the information for these questions, and fill those out accordingly. Again, use that applicant help center we've mentioned. They have a ton of resources, and they have answered that same question you might have about this section or any of the other sections, and they have those answers at the help center.
All right, now we move on to academic history. So at this point, you are halfway done with the application. You are almost there. Academic history is all about your classes, your grades, any test scores that you wish to provide. So we'll dive into it first for our freshmen. For our freshmen, this is why it is crucial that you have your unofficial transcripts right by your side, because you need to manually type in all of the classes, A through G classes that you've taken, the final grades that you have received. And as you can see here, it shows colleges attended and college coursework. So this will only show up if you answered yes to that question in the extended profile. If you answered no, you won't have this section on your application. So that is totally fine. So it's only there if you answered yes and if that is relevant to your situation. As we go through, I do want to reiterate that the application guide, you want to check that out if you don't have it printed, or at least have the tab open, because this is a step-by-step process of how to enter in those classes, grades, repeats. If you're using a test score to meet an A through G requirement or a college course, how to enter that in. But let's dive into it right now. As we go on to the next slide, you'll be able to see where we begin, which starts off with your high school. So if you have a California Colleges account, you can import that information. If not, that's totally fine. You'll go ahead and manually enter in your high school by clicking Add High School. And then you will search for that school by the city and the state and the zip code. It'll give you a list of all the schools that are in that city. You can search through them by scrolling through, or in the next search bar, type in the name of your school and make your selection. When you select a particular school, then it's going to ask you, from when did you start going to that school? From when do you plan to end? So as we go to the next slide, you'll see what that will look like in terms of if you were there since freshman year and you're graduating from there. It's usually August 2018 up until June 2022. And then the term type. Was it fall, was it semester? Was it trimester? Was it quarter school? If you went to multiple high schools, this is where you would input that information here. If you were homeschooled, you would put that here as well. As we move on, you'll be able to see what the next question is, as it's going to ask you, where are you graduating from? Where are you getting your diploma? So you would make that indication as well as where. And then if you attended any schools outside of the United States for high school, you would go ahead and say yes, what your GPA was, and then what that degree or diploma was intentionally going to be called. If not, click no and move right along. All right, so as we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see for the colleges attended. If you attended a community college or university, for example, taking our Steps to College program here at SJSU, you would go ahead and click Add a College or University, search for the college just like you did the high school, and then answer the questions as follows. So did you obtain a degree from this? For high school students, typically the answer is no. Now, where this can get tricky, this is the reason I mentioned Steps to College, is because since those classes are offered here, and eventually you plan to get a degree here, sometimes students put yes. They need to put no on this section, because otherwise the application will be a little confused and say, well, why are you applying for a school you already plan to get a degree at? So go ahead and put no for this section. Quarter, semester, trimester, tuition is applicable. And again, when you started to when you finished. So whether that was during the summer, whether that was in the fall, spring, you go ahead and make that indication. As we move right along, then we move on to your coursework. So starting with your high school coursework, again, all your grades in their A through G classes, those final grades for A through G. You're not going to enter in PE or health, as these are not A through G courses. Why it's important that you enter them in exactly as it shows on your transcript It's because the application is incredibly intuitive. It autofills as you start to fill out the name of the courses if they were taken here in California. So it should automatically do that. Now, if it doesn't do that, sometimes you might need to refresh your page or log out, log back in, or even go back to the academic history section, make sure everything is correct in where you entered in or how you entered in the name of your high school. Because entering in everything manually can delay your application processing, so do keep this in mind. Now, in regards to repeated courses, you would not enter them in twice. So the way that this would work, for example, let's say you took English 2 your sophomore year and you got a D and an F, but you retook it in junior year and got a B and a C. Well, then you would only enter in that junior year English 2, the B and the C, not the D and the F. However, if you took English 2 sophomore year and got a D and an F, and then you're retaking it right now, then you do need to enter that D and the F and put for senior year that you're taking that class in progress for fall and plan for the spring, which you'll see on the next couple slides here. Now, by CSU definition, a repeated course is a class that has the exact same course title offered at the exact same school or school district. So AP World History and World History would not be a repeat. Calculus 1 at the high school versus Calculus 1 at the community college, not a repeat. Those are different courses. To enter your courses, you have to start by entering in your grade level. So you would make your selection of the grade level, 9th grade, the name of high school, the term, and click that green check mark. Now, if you took any of your A through Gs in middle school, for example, most popular tends to be a language other than English or math, you can go ahead and put 7th grade or 8th grade, but the high school would be the name of the school, not a middle school. You cannot enter middle school names here, so keep that in mind. As we move right along, you'll be able to see what that will look like under the grade levels. So say you put 9th grade in, start to enter in those courses, English 1, course type, none if it was a regular course, AP or honors if it was, and then again, those final A through G grades and that green check mark. If you make any mistakes and need to edit something, you see that little pencil icon there, or the trash can if you need to delete something, and you would continue to add your A through G classes as accordingly. Add summer courses if you took them at the high school or summer grade level, and save and continue. It is so important that you save and continue throughout this process. Now on the next slide, you'll see what it will look like for seniors, as again, seniors need to put their senior year coursework. You don't have grades yet, and that's okay. Fall grades are in progress. Spring grades are planned. Do not put a progress report grade. This is in progress and planned. Now, for classes that you're only taking for a semester, such as government and economics, you would put in progress for the class that you're in right now and no grade for the class that you're not going to be in. For the class that you're not in right now, it's no grade. And when you take it in the spring, that's planned as it shows on this screenshot here. An example of this is outlined in that steps, in that guide, the application guide. So make sure that you see that. As not entering in your senior year courses can cause your application to be withdrawn. I do want to reiterate this a couple more times, that if you took any community college or university classes that you're using for A through G credit, they are only entered in the college coursework section, not the high school section. So let's move along so you can see what that will look like. All right, so you're going to go ahead and see here how to enter in your college courses, starting off with selecting that community college. Clicking start for that particular college, and just like you did for the high school, when were you in that class? So what was the term? What was the year? Academic status would be freshman, and completion status, complete if you already have a grade and it's final, in progress or planned if it's in progress or if it's planned. Then you enter in the class. Now this looks a little bit different. It has a course code, it has a title. This is again why it's essential to have your transcript. So for most schools, such as, for San Jose State, for Evergreen, they have a portal, an online portal where you can see your unofficial transcript. Use that to enter it in exactly as it shows. If you don't have that or you're not sure where to find it, contact the registrar of your community college or university so you can get that unofficial transcript copy, because it has to be entered exactly as it shows. Once you finish entering in all of your college courses, this will be a little bit different. On the left-hand side, you'll click the college coursework tab, and then right under that transcript where you had originally clicked start, it's going to say, have you completed it? And you would say yes and save. As we go to the next slide, A through G matching. This is crucial, especially if you're taking community college or university classes to meet A through G, or use a test credit to meet A through G, or, excuse me, have only taken, let's say, AP Spanish, and that's the one and only class you've taken. It is so important that you review A through G matching. This section is going to show the minimum CSU A through G requirements. And it will show you, based off of your self-reported data, the information you just typed in, does this look like you meet those A through Gs? If it doesn't, you need to click Update A through G and manually type in and say, this English 1A class from EBC is for Area B, English, or the Calculus 1 course I took at De Anza is going to be for Area C, Math, or my AP English Lang Comp exam that I got a 4 on, I'm using for Area B, whatever that might be. You will need to manually type that in and then click Save. Next slide shows our standardized test scores. So as you may be familiar with already, we are not requiring SAT or ACT test scores for fall 2022 admissions criteria. However, if you have those scores and would like to share them, they may be used for your English and math course placement. So you can go ahead and put that information here, as well as for AB, IB, CLEP exam scores that you may have. However, do keep in mind that putting test scores here is not considered an official submission of scores. If you do plan to send us test scores, you still need to send official scores from College Board or wherever you took that exam from. I believe that ends it for our freshmen.
Yes, thanks, Amanda. So now we're moving on to the transfer students, the application section. So to start off with the academic history, so this is where you're going to enter the colleges you've attended, as well as your college coursework. So if you're looking on the screen, you will see that the first question you're going to get asked is about high school. It is only going to ask you about the high school you attended. You do not need to have high school transcripts with you at all. It's not going to ask you to fill out the entire high school coursework you've completed. So I'm going to go over what that section will look like. And again, highly encourage you as a transfer student to check out those guides, which show you step-by-step how to fill out each of these sections and inputting transfer classes, credits, how to insert a repeated course, and academic renewal courses. Again, all of that can be found on the guide, especially if you're filling it out and get stuck. So the first thing that you're going to be asked is, what is the high school you attended? So you can look up your high school by, you're going to go ahead and click add a high school, and then you're going to look it up, again, city, state, or zip code. Once you have located your high school, you're going to go ahead and fill out when you attended that high school, the dates attended and the date you graduated, what term type it was, and then you're going to move forward and save. And then it's going to ask you if you have completed your high school degree. So have you graduated, or do you have some sort of high school equivalency? You're going to say where you received it and the date that you received it as well. So you'll just, that's all the information we're going to ask about high school. If you attended a high school outside of the United States, it is going to ask you that question. Did you attend a high school outside of the US? If the answer is yes, you're going to go ahead and report your high school GPA as it is in your high school transcripts, if you can remember that, whatever, if it's in a point or is it in percentages, just write that in there and then write in what that degree was called. So of course, not all of the degrees in other countries are named the same, right? Our high school diploma could be called something else in another country. So just type in what the name of that degree or diploma was in that foreign country that you completed your high school in, and then you'll move forward. That's it. That's all you have to fill out for high school information. Next, you're going to put in the colleges attended. So this is where you're going to add all of the colleges or universities or four-year institutions or two-year institutions that you've attended. We do need to know all of the institutions you've attended, so keep that in mind. You do have to report your academic record to us. You're going to then, at a college or university, you're going to look them up. You can start typing them in. If you can't find your college, then you're going to go ahead and follow that prompt and fill out the information that is being asked of you. It's going to ask you pretty straightforward questions. Is this a quarter school? Is this a semester school? Is this a trimester school? It's going to ask you a tuition question. And then it's going to ask, did you attend this institution? When did you start? When did you end? Or are you still attending this institution? So that is the questions that are going to be asked of you. Very straightforward. That's why it's good to have a copy of your transcripts with you. Unofficial is fine, so that you can fill these out accordingly and as correctly as it's stated on your transcript. Next, you are going to fill out your college coursework. So you are going to have to go line by line, filling out each of the terms that you've attended at that college. So again, very handy to have your unofficial transcripts with you. That will show you the full list of all of your courses you've completed. You're going to go ahead and indicate on there the term, the year, what the course code was, how many units it was, what grade you got for it, and then toggle on if it's a transferable course. Once you have done this for all of your courses for that college, you're going to get to that last question. Are you done entering your transcript? You're going to say yes, and you're going to save it. And then move on either to the next college if you have multiple colleges, or you're going to move on with the application. So again, very straightforward. If you get stuck, again, putting in some classes or the class isn't on there, check out that help guide, which provides information on how to report classes. Or if you're running into an issue, maybe you're trying to put a repeated course, and you're not sure how to put that in there, check out that help guide, which breaks down all of that information. After you have successfully completed putting in your courses, you're going to move on to the general education section. So as transfer students, these are the admission requirements. You have to have those 4 core courses. So you're going to have to identify which classes you've completed that you already reported in the previous section that fulfills those requirements. So you're going to see a little drop down option on there. So if you are an international applicant, you'll go ahead and select the opt-out box. That's, as you can see on the screen, you're going to check that off, and it's going to let you continue with the application. So you're going to fill this out. Again, that help guide, whether it's a transfer or international help guide, explains how to move forward with this general education section as you're filling it out. Then once you have successfully selected the classes that fulfill these areas, you're going to save and continue. Now, transfer students, there is also a standardized test section. Transfer students, you are not required to submit test scores. There are no test score requirement for admission for SAT or ACT. Those are just for typically for freshmen. So the freshmen, that is something that they would indicate if they're required, which this year they're not required for anyone. Whether you're a freshman and transfers, it was never required. So please don't get confused in this section just because you see a standardized test section, thinking that you have to submit some sort of test. There are no test requirements for admission. That is why we highly recommend you check out our Steps to Admission publication, which we shared with you earlier, and we're going to share with you. It's also in the chat. That outlines what our admission requirements are in case you get confused. Now, for our international applicants, there are some test requirements for you as part of the admission, which is that English language proficiency. As you can see here on the screen, these are sections that you'll find on the standardized test section where you could report your scores if you have them. Now, I just want to clarify that if you are reporting any scores on here, whether it's IELTS, TOEFL, or the PTE, that is not an official submission of a test score. You still have to send official test scores to San Jose State as part of the admission process. So just putting them in this section does not make them official. Just keep that in mind as you move forward. For anyone else, you're just going to go ahead and continue through this section if there are no tests that pertain to you on this section. Next is our supporting information section.
All right, so at this point you are almost done with the application, 75% of the way. So supporting information mainly consists of the EOP application. EOP stands for the Educational Opportunity Program that is available not just at San Jose State, but at other CSUs as well, that services first-generation, low-income, and historically educationally disadvantaged students. Now, if you are interested in this program, they provide advisors, sometimes financial assistance, workshops from the summer before you start with us all the way to when you graduate. If you are even a little bit interested and definitely eligible, now is the one and only time that you can apply when you're applying for admission. You cannot apply first semester of your freshman year, sophomore year, it's only now. So if you're even a little bit interested, now is the time to apply. As we go on to the next slide to see what the application looks like, it is going to ask you for some questions such as, were you involved in any other educational programs? What is your parent and guardian financial information status, as well as educational level? Some short answer questions like about why do you want to go to college? What goals do you have? What activities were you involved with? Things of that nature. And 2 recommendations, which will not be recommendation letters that you attach. The way that you prepare for this is the name and email of a teacher, a coach, a counselor, someone who is not a relative that could speak to your academic performance. You would put their name and their email as well as the EOP deadline. So again, remember that deadlines page and that information there. Then Cal State Apply sends that person an email saying, so-and-so is seeking a recommendation for EOP. They get a link to fill out a form on your behalf. EOP requires 2 recommendations, so that's incredibly important that if you are interested in this program, that you have those 2 recommendations. So when you're filling this out, you can say, yes, I'm ready to apply right now, or yes, but I want to submit my application first, I'm going to come back and do this, or no, I'm not interested or not eligible. And if that is the case, then, as you'll see on the next slide, you will be done with the application. It will be completely green and check marked, ready to go. I cannot stress this enough, how important it is to review this application, to go through it thoroughly section by section, because as it again is one application for all 23 CSUs, even if you hit submit to someone else and not us, and you find an error, you cannot make any changes once you've hit submit. No changes at all. So make sure you take the time and review this application thoroughly. As we go to the next slide, you will see, excuse me, as we go to the next slide, you'll see what it will look like when you're ready to submit. So there's a button at the top that says submit, and right under that, it says check my fee waivers. So it's going to say, you can apply to 4 CSUs for free, you qualify for the fee waiver, or no, you do have to pay $70 per CSU that you apply to. Now, if you do get this message, but you believe you should be eligible for the fee waiver, this is where you would want to click here for more information to go through a checklist to see that you didn't accidentally disqualify yourself. Now, if you go through that checklist, you make whatever changes you need to do as accurate and truthful, and still it's saying you're not eligible, there is a form there, and the website is listed here under visit, for an appeal. Now, an appeal would have to be sent to the admissions office of every CSU you plan to apply to before you apply. You cannot do it after, as there are no refunds in this process. So if you believe that you should be eligible, it's showing that you're not, you would need to fill that out, submit it, and well in advance, because it's going to take time for that appeal to be reviewed. So you don't want to be working on this on November 30th at 11:59. It's so crucial to plan ahead and get this done early if that is the case. As we go to the next slide, you get ready to pay for the application. It's going to ask you one more time to review everything, to make sure that everything is accurate, correct, that again, no changes can be made after you hit submit. So you got to click and say, I understand, I reviewed, everything is correct to your knowledge. Moving on. Now we go on to the checklist. So starting again with our freshmen, what this checklist will look like. Starting with talking to your counselor, making sure that you are on track with your A through G requirements, because you need to complete those with a C- or better before your high school graduation date. You absolutely cannot use summer 2022 to meet fall 2022 requirements. Everything has to be done by your high school graduation date. Stay on track. Make sure that you are checking your MySJSU account. You get access to it, or rather you get an email to activate it about a week or 2 after you hit submit on your application. It is your responsibility to activate that account and monitor it, because it's through that account that we send you messages, post any to-do list items, like when to send your transcripts, especially for our international students, to see any required document deadlines. So make sure you follow through with that there. And of course, budget and plan. Again, it is $70 per school. The rest of our fees can be outlined in our steps to admission, as well as our timeline that you'll see in the next slide here. Because the application process has already begun. The application has been open since October 1st. For San Jose State, once again, for SJSU, it closes November 30th. So make sure that you apply timely. You give yourself that time to work on it, and keep an eye out for that email to activate your My SJSU account. Do the financial aid application before that deadline as well. In late February or early March, we let students know if they have been admitted, if they applied by the domestic deadline. Now, for our international students, this may be a little different, as your deadline to apply is April 1st. So this is why it is so crucial to monitor that My SJSU account and be on top of all of those deadlines. Let's move on to see what it will look like for our transfers.
For transfer students, again, you want to talk to your counselor. Make sure that you are on track on meeting those transfer admission requirements. Retake any course or test if needed, because again, just like freshmen, we will not review summer 2022 work for fall 2022 admission requirements. So all of the admission requirements for transfer students need to be completed by the end of spring 2022. If you have not already, or if you're planning to apply for financial aid, fill out that FAFSA. It is now open. Make sure you're getting that in by that priority deadline of March 2nd. And then lastly, complete those requirements. Make sure that you are on track again, that you're getting that C- or better on those required courses. You will have additional documents and additional to-do list items that will be due by SJSU. So we're going to send you more information. Just continue checking your San Jose State student account, reading all the messages we send, making sure you're making note of all those deadlines and submitting those, whether it's a document, whether we're asking you to do something, get that done off of your to-do list. So keep that in mind. Now, a timeline of what that would look like for transfer students. Again, the application is now open. As of October 1st, you have until the end of this month, November 30th, to submit your application. Our international applicants, you have until April 1st, so you still have some time. But everyone else, your application is due by the end of this month. Then you'll fill out an SJSU supplemental application that we are going to send to you directly. It is not anywhere online. You won't find it. We will send that to you with additional instructions. And then you'll find out if you're provisionally admitted about late February to early March. Then if we need transcripts from you, you'll have those partial ones due March 23rd. And then you'll submit your intent to enroll May 1st. You'll accept or decline that provisional admission. Then if you do accept, you'll attend your Spartan experience in the summer, and then your final transcripts will be due. So that's just a general timeline, which again can be found on our steps to admission. So again, if you don't have your phone out, we've dropped these links into the chat. Make sure you bookmark it. It has all of the deadlines for transfer students, for freshmen. So check that out. We have our domestic steps to admission here. We also have our international steps to admission. So if you're an international applicant and you want to see all the deadlines for the admission process, everything that we're requiring from you, check it out on the international steps to admission. And of course, any of our students watching today that are from out of state, there's also a publication for you. So check this one out that has all of those deadlines, all of the requirements, and additional information about San Jose State. Lastly, we want to continue to invite you to feel free to come back. We are still hosting Cal State Apply workshops this month before the deadline. Go on our event page, just where you registered for this presentation today. Go on in there and register for any of the other ones coming up. If you would like to come back and watch us present again, or if you have questions for us, as you can see, our team has been working hard on that back end, answering all of your questions that have come in during this presentation. And then lastly, we would love to have you and would love to invite you to our Spartan Saturday events that we have going on this month. Our first one is this Saturday, November 6th. It's an opportunity for you as a freshman or transfer student to learn more about San Jose State. We will give more information about San Jose, We're also going to do a mini tour, and we're also going to have a student panel so you can learn about San Jose State directly from our students. So I do invite you, you could register for those events. We're going to have one this Saturday, November 6th, and the second one will be on November 20th. So do go to our events page to register for those. And with that, we are now at the end of our presentation. We'll be taking those questions that you have, and I'll let Amanda finish out our presentation.
All righty here. So we got some questions here in the Q&A. Go ahead and drop those in if you haven't already done so. So we got one question here. What's the difference between the Cal State Apply account and the MySJSU? Cal State Apply is where you're filling out that information for the application for not just San Jose State, but all 23 CSUs or whichever CSUs you're planning to apply to. MySJSU is our specific portal where any and everything that we need from you, messages, to-do list items, gets posted. Every school you apply to is going to have some version of this. Monterey Bay's dashboard. Different schools have different names for theirs, different systems. So it is your responsibility. That's why we said it's so important that it's your personal email that you put here, because all of the schools are going to email you access to their particular portal. So you have to check those and monitor those regularly. All right. Another question here. Do we need to create a separate account for each CSU before November 30th? So by account, I'm going to assume that you mean the Cal State Apply, and no, it is one account because it's one application for all 23 CSUs. If you make multiple accounts, that can not only delay the process, but be a little bit fraudulent as well because you're applying as different students. So make sure, because that gives you different ID numbers every time you make a new application. So make sure that when you go to that application and it has that section of add a program, that's where you select the different schools that you want to apply to. So again, one account, one application for all 23 CSUs.
Thank you, Amanda. Another question we received: are essays and recommendation letters required for Cal State Apply or CSUs? The answer is no. We do not require essays. We don't do interviews. We don't look at extracurriculars. That is why, if you're watching our presentation, there is no section for you to add extracurriculars as part of the freshman or transfer admission requirement. So we do not require them for admission, and the Cal State Apply will not ask you on the application to report any of that, and there is no section for you to report it. Again, check out those publications that we posted, the links on the chat. The publications have all of our admission requirements, and you'll see also on there that there is no mention of essays, recommendations, extracurriculars, or interview process for the CSUs.
All right, we got a question of, is this GPA enough for SJSU? So every major has a different minimum for freshmen, eligibility index score, for transfers, minimum GPA, and sometimes also supplemental courses. The reason for this is that we are a fully impacted campus. So what this means is that every major has a little bit of different requirement that's subject to change each term. You can visit our website, sjsu.edu/admissions with an S at the end, /impaction to see what scores were for previous terms to get an idea of what it might be for when you apply, as again, they're subject to change each term and vary per major.
Thank you, Amanda. And with that, to be respectful of your time as we are nearing the end of our presentation, we're going to go ahead and move on to invite you, should you have additional questions or need assistance with the application or have questions about our admission, visit us at our virtual front desk. We are available virtually for you. We're also available in person. We do have our office open, so you can come down and meet with a pre-admission counselor or meet with a pre-admission counselor virtually at our virtual front desk. We also highly recommend you follow us on social media, both on Instagram and on TikTok. We post great content on there directly from our students, as well as post announcements about events we might be having and reminders about things coming up. So make sure that you are checking our social media and following us to be up to date. If you are interested in San Jose and you would like to hear more from a student's perspective, check out our student podcast, The Spartan Scoop. You can find more information about what it is like being an SJSU student at San Jose State directly from our students. It is a podcast led, produced by our students directly. And then we are offering virtual tours. So if you're interested in coming down to campus and visiting us, we are offering in-person tours as well. So you could do a virtual tour or you could sign up for an in-person tour on our website. If you have any additional questions, feel free to contact us at outreach@sjsu.edu. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for asking all these questions. We hope that this presentation gave you a lot of great information, and as you move forward with the application or you start the application, we thank you for your time and we hope you have a great day.
Take care, everybody.